All right, so I think we are live, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing well. This is probably my second or third video during the whole pandemic. I've been quite busy. I've been working on a lot of contract projects, a lot of code that's being written in SwiftUI. And today's video, what I want to do is to show you guys how to build out a search feature type of UI inside of SwiftUI. I found this to be kind of hard to build sometimes. So hopefully after watching this video, you guys can get a better idea as to how this is done. Okay, that is the intro. And now let's see, I'm gonna bring your attention to the middle of the screen here. And I have two different types of search setups inside of these two simulators. And the left side is really simple. So let me go ahead and demo this first right here. So at the very top, we have a search bar, allows you to search like that. And I'm just going to type in A or Fox. And obviously this is pretty self-explanatory. That's Fox, there's A, and then there's jumped right here. So there's a lot of repeated words inside of my list. So that's kind of why you see those duplicates. Okay, so it turns out there isn't a native SwiftUI search component. Maybe there is. If there is one, hopefully you guys can point me to what exactly that component is. On the right side, the iPhone 11 Pro Max simulator here. This is using a grid component, which is new to SwiftUI 2.0 or SwiftUI inside of iOS 14. And it's a very similar idea. This is just pulling down the top 50 grossing applications inside of the App Store, I think. It doesn't really matter so much, but you can search like Roblox is here, Clash Royale, YouTube is here, and everybody seems to love TikTok, especially during the pandemic. Okay, if we have enough time, I think I'll walk through how to implement the search for the grid, but why don't we take things one step at a time, and I will build out this left search first because obviously it's easier. Okay, hopefully you guys understand what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to drag this guy down to the corner, and hopefully the audio is coming in fine as well. I'm going to be using Xcode 12, and what I'll do is I'm going to go inside of Xcode and create a brand new project. It looks a little bit different. I'm just going to use this app thing here. It's still really similar to Xcode 11, and let me just kind of walk you guys through this step here. Okay, let's go search SwiftUI LBTA. Did I spell that correctly? It looks okay. I'm going to be using the interface of SwiftUI here. The lifecycle, it used to be UIKit app delegate, or actually this option never used to kind of show up in this panel. So it used to be this right here, but by default in Xcode 12 and iOS 14, you can use SwiftUI app now because that's the default. I'm going to be using that instead. Okay, next right here, doesn't really matter so much. And let's go ahead and create this bad boy here. Hopefully everything is being recorded. I'm using OBS and I'm just looking at my output window here. And everything looks good so far. Okay, let me close out of that. And I'm just going to hit the resume here. This is an application. I'm going to be using let's use iPhone Pro Max here. And basically what I'm going to walk you guys through on how to do is you see this little top search bar area here. We're going to be building this search bar manually inside of our content view, and also provide some kind of scroll view so that we can scroll up and down like that there. Okay, what else do I need to explain? Again, I'm going to be using Xcode 12, which makes your project look a little bit different. Here's the app right here. It's using your content view, which is this guy. I don't want to explain too much as to what's going on, but welcome to Xcode 12. Okay, everything looks extremely small and that size looks okay. You can close out of the left panel like that, and everything is much better, much cleaner, so that I can show you exactly the UI we're building out. Okay, let's see. Next, let's look at this list here. And we have our hello world, which is nice. You can say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you'll see the changes appear ever so slightly on the right side. Why don't we first build out a scroll view for our list, because we're going to be searching through this list here, right? So A does that. And let's see, whenever you do that, you have this other component here. You can grab this, simple cut and paste. And then here is your text component at the very top, because the scroll view aligns everything starting from the top there. Okay, and for, just to make things look a little bit cleaner, let me move the scroll view inside of our navigation view here. And then finally, you're going to want to say navigation title, and let's say food, or obviously make it whatever you want, and you should be okay. All right, now next thing I want to construct here is a list inside of my scroll view. You can use a list component, but it's really hard to modify the look and feel of the list. So in today's video, I'm going to be using a scroll view, which is usually what I use in my consulting project. Okay, that being said, I'm going to use a for each to construct some dummy components here. Let's use 20 items, ID of self. And this is just a syntax you have to get used to. Let's see, text is here. And for each one of my numbers, I'm going to be using a text component to render it out here. What else do I want to do? I want to align everything to the left side. So let me use an H stack and a spacer here. And that'll just put it right there. Padding will give everything just some top, bottom, leading, and trailing edge padding, which makes your list look like that. What else do I want to do here? Maybe I want to use I think I can just, in Xcode 2.0, you can just use a divider, and things will be separated by this divider line there. I'm actually curious if you can change the foreground color. So foreground color to black. Does that do anything? Okay, that doesn't look like it's making it any darker. Sometimes inside of Swift, you just have to try certain things, and sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't. Okay, it looks like the divider, you can change the color to be a lot darker using the background instead of the foreground. So that's what I'll do. Let me also add a leading to give some spacing on the left there. And this looks a little bit dark. Inside of, what do I want to say here? Inside of the new Swift, you can say maybe system gray of 4, and then you'll get a slightly lighter gray. I tend to use this a lot inside of projects just to, get a color that's not so black. Okay, let's see, moving on here. So now that we have our dummy list constructed, right? What exactly do we want to do now? Well, why don't we start to draw this search bar up at the very top here? And like I said, we're going to construct this guy manually. What kind of components are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at some kind of horizontal component that has this background grayish color. We have the left side has this magnifying glass. In the center spans all the way to the end here. It should stop at the X, but maybe we'll fix that later. And then so text, and then this X circle thing, and then the cancel button on the right side, and everything slides in when you start the actual search input. So how do we do this? Well, inside of SwiftUI, there's a lot of different ways to construct your UI, and I'll just be showing you one very quick and general way of doing this. So like many other things inside of Swift, you'll be using a container like an H stack or something. And why don't I use a text field here? And this is going to be the actual component where I type in. So I guess less talking and more doing here. search terms here. And then this binding thing is a variable that's actually going to hold what you're typing into the text field. So it's really easy. You just want to create a state variable, and let's call this the search text. And we're going to initialize it as an empty string because when the app starts out, you're not really searching for anything. So that just means that it's empty. Hopefully that makes sense. To get a binding version of your state variable inside of SwiftUI, you have to add this $sign there. And once you do that, everything should be fine. Can I get this to 75%? Okay, that is looking a little better. All right. So far so good. I'm on my Hackintosh, so everything is like running super quickly. Okay, so you see your search term is here. You can start typing in. One thing you'll notice is that when you click on the search term, right, there's actually an invisible keyboard. It's actually this thing here. So you hit Command K. It's actually this keyboard here. If someone can tell me how to actually show the keyboard instead of the preview, that would be quite splendid. But, just be careful that whenever you are typing here and you try to drag the list, it doesn't work because the keyboard is obstructing the scroll view. All right, hopefully that tip helps. I was certainly very confused as to what the heck is going on down here. But now you know, hopefully you'll not fall into that pitfall. Okay, so now I'm going to hit a space right here. It's going to refresh the preview because my machine is fast. It gives it to me in a few seconds. Now we are going to move on. Let's see, background color. And like I was saying earlier, you can use system gray, or system gray is going to come out inside of the parens. And let's just use gray like that. Maybe 2. What am I using over there? Probably some 3 or 4. So 4 looks pretty close to that. And now that we're getting a little bit closer, I think I can use a padding value here. If you move this background down after the padding like this, it'll do something a little bit different. So now it looks like that. I don't want everything, let's see. I want everything actually on the H stack. I don't think it matters much, but that'll help me do this a little bit faster. Okay, so I'm going to add another padding, and this is just going to be horizontal on the left and right edges, which gives me this right here and that on the right side. Finally, why don't we use corner radius? So 3 looks like that, 12 looks like that. Play around with this until you're happy with the actual corner radius here and here. I think I'm using a value of 6 or something in the other app, or this finished app. Okay, this is looking a little bit dark, so let's change it to system gray 5. Now that we have this going, why don't we actually implement the search first? And then we'll talk about this magnifying glass, the X circle, and then the cancel on the right side, which isn't that hard, to be honest. So to implement this search here, it's pretty simple. Whenever you type in text, let's say 1, you should be able to, filter everything out so that only this 1 is showing. So essentially, I want to say A and have it only the A's, or, Fox for the Fox. How do we do this inside of this SwiftUI block of code? Well, what you can do is inside of your for each loop, right? You are generating 0 to 20 down there, or 0 to 19, and you can apply the filter directly. So I'm going to, so 0 dot dot less than 20 gives you an array of numbers. And you can say this right here to filter, and I believe you have to wrap this inside the parentheses here. And now you can actually filter. So what exactly am I going to filter for, right? So inside of the filter, you have to say brace, brace. And to access one of these numbers here, you have to say $0 to, access the 0, the 1, the 2, or the 3. This is what the $0 means. And the next thing you can do is I'm going to construct a string version of the number. And this is how you interpolate the string instead of the number here. And I believe that is what I want, and contains, is it contains, okay, no, I think I want to actually do this here. So not the text, but get that, and that contains, and you want to check if it contains the actual search term you're searching for. So in other words, we just want to use the search text here. Okay, hopefully this is not too confusing. You can write this in a separate function, but I'm doing this in line inside of this line 25 because I find it to be a little easier to explain. But basically, you'll see nothing inside of our list right now because we don't have anything as a search text yet. So if I just say 1, you'll see 1, 10, and everything above 10 because our list contains up to 20. If you say 2, you have 2 and 12. And 3 is 3 and 13. So that's how, the searching algorithm, I wouldn't really call this an algorithm because everything's being handled through this function here, but nonetheless, we're doing some type of manual work. So moving on here, you'll see that down below, whenever your list begins, right, your application starts from nothing right here. What I want to do is I want to show everything inside a list if I'm not searching for anything. So some of you guys can probably guess how that's done, but I'm going to use an OR statement here, and search text dot is empty like so. And what that means is at the very beginning, there's nothing. So everything's going to show up on the list. That's what the OR is doing. And now we can say 0 gives me that, 12 is that. And this is nothing to be worried about if you don't understand it, but just follow this and you'll be fine. Okay, now looks like we are 18 minutes in. What else do I want to show you? Well, you see the magnifying glass on the left side here. How do we do that? Well, do we want to add it here? I guess I'll add it here. So we have our H stack, which looks like this, right? You can add the magnifying glass directly to the left here, and that should be fine. Or you can do an overlay. So this one, I don't see that often, so maybe I'll show you guys this instead. So just use an overlay here. I believe it's an H stack and text.test, and now you'll get this overlay showing in the middle. So what do we want to do with the test variable here? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a spacer. It'll push the test to the left side here. And then I'm going to use another component, which is a test here, and it'll give me the test here. And this will eventually turn into the X, and this will be the magnifying glass there. So I'm just going to give this padding, and let's say horizontal, and then, it gives you this effect here. You can push it deeper with 32, and that's what I'll do. So not too bad. Why don't we pull in the let's see, the magnifying glass with a image of system name. So magnifying, I think it's glass without the dot. One thing that, well, I guess, let me explain to you guys where these things are coming from. Okay, so we have the glass showing up on the left, right? Let me do the same thing for this right here. I believe it's like X mark or something. Let me see. So X mark is that, I'm just going to check my other project. I have the X mark circle fill, circle.fill, and now we have the magnifying glass here, and then the X. This search term, you can push the padding and leading. That's okay, and it's 24. Okay, let me bump this to 100%, and now you'll see the icon here, the search term here, ABC, and 0. That looks okay. And then the X is showing there. Not so bad so far. And gray and whatever color you want to to use is fine. So let me kind of catch my breath here. And hopefully this stuff isn't like too tough to understand up to this point. But yeah, I find that whenever I'm building a SwiftUI application, sometimes a seemingly simple component just isn't embedded or implemented natively inside of SwiftUI. I just have to manually build it out quite easily using these simple techniques. Okay, now last thing I want to do is, why don't I tell you guys where these images are coming from? Because if you haven't used this before, it can be a little confusing. Let's see, how do I want to say this? Inside of Apple's developer website, there's this like SF beta thing. It's like SF symbols beta. That's what this thing is called. And basically, this is the program here. You have all these icons that you can use. Let me toggle this thing on here. You'll see that some of these icons are only available with iOS 13 and scribble.variable here. This is only available in iOS 14, so just make sure you're fully aware of that. If your simulator is using iOS 13, you won't really see the icon. Let's see, if you want to search for icons, you can go through here, magnifying glass, and then you'll find a lot of different variations of that icon. And then, search for the X mark or whatever you want. There's a crap ton of icons that you can use now instead of iOS 14, and iOS 13 has a lot too. Okay, and with that being said, let's move on to some other interesting functionality of our application. You see on the very right side here, you want the X mark, like let's say you say A or let's say Fox, right? When you actually type in Fox and you click the X right here, you actually want to remove the text inside. And also you want to make sure that the list is not filtered anymore. And I also want to show this X only when I click inside of the search bar there. So a lot of tricky things that's going on with the X button. I'll tackle this one at a time here. How do I want to show you guys how to do this? Well, you see the X is showing, right? I'm going to use another state variable that's called is searching, and let's just set this guy to false because by default at the very beginning, you're not searching, so it's going to be false. Next, we are going to go down to the X mark circle. And if we are searching, we're going to use this right here. And once you do that, Command Option P to resume. Every now and then you have to resume. You can either use that button on the top or just Command Option P. So you see the X mark is now gone, right? What I'm going to do next is every time I tap on one of these things here, so I want to try doing this on tap gesture, that we're going to say is searching .toggle or set it to true, whatever you want. Actually, I want to set it equal to true because that's a little better. I'm going to do that. Click on this guy. You'll see the X mark show up here. I'm going to click on this X and then kind of wipe out this text here, right? I want to wipe out that text when I click on the X. You can use another on tap gesture to do that, but why don't we make it a little bit cleaner with action and a label here. This is pretty simple. Put it in here. You should see the button like that, so you can actually kind of click on it. You see it has a down state there, so down like that. I find that maybe you want to use some padding for this guy. And let's see, click on that. It looks okay. I think I'll just use vertical just to make it a little bit easier to click. Okay, next thing I'll do is whenever I tap on that X button, I want to do this inside of the action. I'm going to say searching text equals the empty string again. And so let's see if this actually works. I'm going to say 1, hit the X, and you'll see the entire list is now fully rendered out with every object, because the way we set up the filter, right? Once the search text is empty, everything is going to show up in the entire list. So hopefully that's not too bad. Let's say 2 is here. I click on the X, and everything seems to be working fine. All right, so not so bad. Last thing we want to do, one thing I kind of want to show you guys is that when you have a scroll view inside of a SwiftUI application, you can actually just scroll down and you'll see it stops at the actual keyboard, which is pretty amazing. A lot of you guys that have done iOS development with UIKit, you'll know that getting this to work inside of iOS UIKit is really tedious and just all kinds of painful. So now that you get this behavior for free, I feel like using SwiftUI is more and more of an attractive option. Okay, so that was kind of a tangent. Last thing I'll walk you guys through how to do is maybe this cancel button on the right side there. And you see, I don't have the cancel button, right? When you're searching for something like Fox, you want to hit the cancel. You want to erase the Fox and get rid of the X and the cancel like that. I think most search UIs work like that. So that's what I'll try to build out. Hopefully I can do this. What I want to do here. First, I'm going to show a cancel button. And I think maybe I want to do this. I want to wrap everything inside of another H stack. Let me just show you how this works here. So here's the H stack. Inside of my H stack is yet another H stack containing everything that you see there. I'm going to say button and action, that, and let's see that. And cancel is now showing up on the right edge. Let's go padding, does that. Let's only do the trailing because the left is a little big. Something that you can do if you want to, kind of make the UI look a little bit strange or better is you can give this a negative leading edge, which pushes this to the right a little bit. So, or to the left, or however you want to think about it. By default, it looks like that. So use this trick if you feel like your UI isn't shifted correctly in the horizontal axis. Okay, that being said, whenever I click on the cancel, I want to implement the actual dismissal of this X here first. And as some of you guys can guess already, you can do it using is searching and just say equals to false, or maybe just use toggle. I think toggle works too. So A, B, C, D, E, F, hit the cancel. You'll see the X button disappears. We can also say search text equals the empty string. I think that's mostly what I want to do. So 1, hit cancel, and everything appears again. Finally, the next last feature you want to implement is you want to actually dismiss the cancel button. And I guess in addition, when you start out your app, you don't want the cancel button to show up. So you guys can probably guess how to do this. Let's see, the button is here. And you can say, let's see, I think it's if we are searching, then show this guy here. I think that's what I want to do. So click on that. You'll see your cancel. Click on that. The cancel itself goes away as well. Now, if you notice, I think some of you guys can notice this. When I click on the cancel here, you'll see that it slides in the actual text field, and also the cancel slides left and right. Surprisingly, this is really easy to do inside of SwiftUI, and I'll show you guys how to do it right now. So it's still, let's see, it's pretty easy. I don't remember this code all the time, but I believe it's transition and dot move, and the edge is trailing, and this down here. I think you want to use an animation. So any animation will do. Let's see, click on that, kind of slides in like so, click on that, it slides out like that. I'm a big fan of the spring animation. You can use this complicated one, but for today's video, we're just going to use the spring like that. Click on that, does that, does that, does that, and that. Looks, quite good for just 2 lines of code. If you want to apply the same thing with the actual text box, you can take this here and just move it, I guess, right there or something. Click on that, you'll get this, slides in and clicks in like that. The frame rate, I think there's a little drop in frames, but when you run this on your iPhone, it should be rather smooth, up to 60 FPS, I guarantee it. I think we are almost done with today's lesson. I guess the last thing I'll do is I'll try to run this in the iPhone Pro on the right side, just to make sure everything is looking a-okay. I noticed that if you try to rely on the preview too much, sometimes when you actually launch your application, things don't render exactly the same as you would expect. Okay, so this is looking okay. This search bar is a little tall, but you can modify one of these padding values to fix that. I'll let you guys figure out that step on your own. 0, let's see. Can I get a 0? All right, so that looks like the 0. I think my computer froze a little bit because it's trying to process a little bit too many things at the same time. So that's 11, and 11 is showing up here. I had to cancel, and now that looks okay. There's a trick to get the dismissal when you scroll down and try to dismiss the keyboard. Maybe I'll show you guys how to do that later. One last thing that you want to do is when you hit that cancel right there, you want to dismiss the keyboard at the same time. In other words, you want to hit cancel and the keyboard goes away. So how do we do that? Well, this is one of the trickier parts of the code. And I'll let you guys kind of analyze the code on your own. Whenever I am hitting the cancel right here, which is this button on the right side, I'm going to do, in addition to setting is searching and search text up above, I'm going to say UI application shared send action of resigning the first responder. And if you don't know what this is, basically whatever it has the actual focus or context of the typing keyboard, you're just going to resign that. And in doing so, it will dismiss the keyboard. So, a lot of talk, but once you see it in action, it should be quite self-explanatory. So cancel, and it gets rid of the keyboard like that. Okay, this has been a super long tutorial, but hopefully you guys were able to pick up on a lot of the techniques in today's lesson. There's one more thing I would like to show you guys how to do, and let me just shrink down the UI a little bit here. It's a little bit too large for me to show you guys what I want to show. So whenever you have your SwiftUI application, right, you tend to, let me just shrink this down a little bit more. So it's looking really small, I know that. And you'll see that your SwiftUI components typically end up with a lot of these nested embedded sub views and sub components that are going to expose some actions and more braces upon braces. And it gets really ugly, especially for someone that, or not even just another person, but when you're looking at your own code later on, just trying to edit some of this stuff is just incredibly difficult. So the technique to make things simpler is to just extract these components. And I believe you can do this show codes action, and you'll see this window right here. Hopefully you guys can see it. You can embed or extract everything inside of a sub view, or just, cut and paste, but that option is available, extracts it inside of this extracted view here. And let's just call this the, search bar, give it whatever name you want. And we should be done, but you'll see we don't have the search text inside of this struct down here, right? Let me just bump this up a little bit more. It's really hard to see. So the search text is missing because it's inside of the parent content view component up there. And it's a state variable. It's a search text right here. You might, try to use a state variable here, like this or something. You might want to try to do that, but that's not going to work. Let me just show you the correct answer, and maybe in another video I'll explain to you how these bindings and state variables work. Search text. It doesn't have to be called search text. It can be called whatever you want. And just use a type of string, and let me use the other variable of is searching, and this needs to be a boolean here. And once you see your search text and is searching is available, the syntax highlighting comes back. And now the last bug that you need to fix is this right here. Just hit the fix. You'll get the search text and is searching because these two variables are here. It gives you this automatic initializer. Again, the last thing you need to do is to pass in the binding of search text and the binding of is searching. So once you do that, you have your fully extracted sub view as your search bar down here. Your code, again, looks a lot cleaner. Whenever you come back to it, you can just see your search bar here, command click takes you down here, and start editing this guy to be whatever you want. Again, you want to make sure your code compiles and everything runs nicely. And click on that. You can say 1 and 2, and everything looks okay. All right, that's going to wrap up for today's lesson. There's not much else I want to talk about because SwiftUI is so freaking new, especially Swift 2.0 or SwiftUI 2.0 rather. One tip that I'll give you guys is that if you want to be fast and quick about your SwiftUI implementation, you want to make sure that you're using the preview on the right side. If you're still running things inside of the simulator, you're not really taking advantage of the quick iterations of having your preview show you your implementation like on the spot. So this is also known as hot reloading. I don't know if it's hot reloading in this case, but it's definitely very, very quick. If you want to load different types of previews, you can do that as well. So the preview is actually this right here. It's rendering out the content view. So let's say I want to hit the stop on the top right there. And let's say I want to present another content view. It'll just show up down here. And that's down here, and just scroll down. Let's say I want to use the dark color scheme. So color scheme is dark. And now this guy should show up like that. You'll see, when you're building out an application in 2020 or 2021, you're definitely going to want to have dark mode support for your app. And you can imagine if you run it in your simulator and try to toggle the dark mode on and off, and that gets a little repetitive. So having the ability to just access dark mode, light mode, all at the same time here, you can just do it inside of the panel on the right side. If your monitor is really small, here's another tip. Do I want to go through this? I'm not really sure if this works, but you can do this as well. And you'll get 1 right here, and you'll get this two-faced looking search window. And if your monitor is really small, like sometimes I'll program with my MacBook Pro, that's 16-inch one, and even then the screen is too small to show like 2 tall renders of the preview. So what I'll do is I will kind of trick the simulator on the right side or the preview to show me 2 different previews, and you can get everything in just one view. Another trick that you might want to use is I think it's like preview, layout, and you can say fixed width height. So let's see if this is getting a little bit too wild. 600, and now you can, let me just shrink this down to like 400. No, that's the height. So 600 looks okay. Maybe 600 for that. Again, if your screen is really small and you want to see everything in one shot, you can utilize this trick right here to make sure everything is visible in one screen like that. And again, these are just various tricks to help you develop your UI faster and just make sure things are just smoother. Okay, I think that is all I want to say. If you guys want to download the code for today's project, it's going to be available down in the description below with a link. If you guys want to learn more about, I guess, UIKit and Swift, you can check out the courses down below as well. I feel like I'm going to put out Swift UI courses whenever the beta of Swift 2.0, Swift UI 2.0 is out. Still, I think today it's like beta 6 or beta 7. Maybe I'll wait for the GM release of Xcode, and then I'll kind of finalize my plans on which courses I want to build out. Some ideas that I have currently is to work on like an Instagram style social media thing with Swift 2.0, Swift UI 2.0. And then maybe I'll talk about core data, how to use Firebase, and maybe iCloud, CloudKit. And there's just a bunch of things that I want to kind of teach you guys how to build out in the future. And, you know, most of the lessons will be like today. It's very easy. It's really fun once you get the hang of, you know, how to construct your Swift UI views. Okay, that's all for today. And hopefully I'll put out more videos during this slow pandemic season. Okay, bye guys.